Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this past week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you're interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. So the first dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some chicken parm over pasta. So I'm just starting out with my chicken breast. I just butterflied one large one in half. Next, I'm just going to use a small pot to kind of pound these out, make them thin. This also helps to tenderize the chicken and keep it nice and juicy. So next I'm just going to lightly season the chicken breast. I'm just going to season with some salt and some garlic powder. I'm just going to do that for both sides. You definitely don't have to do too much seasoning because the Italian breadcrumbs definitely has a lot of seasoning in it. So next we're just going to do the egg wash into the breadcrumb mixture. We're not going to do the flour, just one less step. So you just want to make sure you coat both sides of the chicken breast really well with the breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to do that for both chicken breasts. I seriously love these Italian breadcrumbs. It's such like a nostalgic smell, and it definitely makes your house smell good without even cooking them. So before I cook the chicken, I'm just going to work on the broccoli. At the same time, I do have a little pan of oil heating up. So I'm just going to place some broccoli on this baking sheet, drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top, going to season with some salt and some garlic powder. So then I just placed this in the oven at 350 degrees until they were nice and brown. So once my pasta started boiling, I went ahead and started cooking the chicken. So I just placed the chicken down in the oil and I'm just going to let them brown on both sides. They don't necessarily have to cook all the way through. So once they start to get a nice crust on the one side, then I just go ahead and flip it. Once that's done, I'll just remove it and put it in a baking dish, and I'll just work on the other one. So at this time, you want to make sure you have your oven preheating. Mine set to about 375. Basically, you're just going to finish up the chicken and brown the cheese on top. So once they were both removed, I just went ahead and started working on the topping. So I'm just taking a jarred marinara sauce, kind of anyone will work. I'm just going to spoon however much you want on the top of the chicken. Then I'm just going to use some shredded Monterey Jack cheese, not technically Parmesan, but this worked just fine. So this is how everything looked when it was done. I just spooned a little of that marinara on the pasta and then laid down the chicken. This was absolutely delicious. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you is a Pinterest inspired meal. This is just creamy jalapeno chicken. So I'm just starting off with my jalapenos. You definitely want to use fresh jalapenos for this recipe, and I absolutely love fresh jalapenos with anything. So I'm just going to take a couple jalapenos. I'm just using 2, and I'm just going to chop those up into little rounds. Definitely use however many you want though. Definitely know that this is labeled a spicy dish. If this was on a menu, it would have like a pepper next to it for sure. So next I'm just going to work on my chicken breasts. So I'm just going to take my chicken breasts and kind of dice them up into bite-sized pieces. So I am just using one large chicken breast for this recipe. This was definitely enough for me and my husband for one day, especially served over rice. So once I had the chicken all cut up, ready to go, I just decided to throw some egg rolls in the oven. These are the spring rolls from Costco. I really like them and they were a great side for this meal. So next is to start cooking up the chicken. At the same time, I do have 1 cup of white rice cooking. This is such a quick and easy meal, but this turned out so delicious. So I'm just starting off with my always pan. I have it on about medium heat. I just drizzled a little bit of olive oil in the pan and let that heat up. Next, I'm just going to throw in the chicken a little bit and season with some salt, garlic powder, and a little bit of onion powder. So once the chicken was almost all the way cooked through, then I went ahead and threw in my jalapenos. I did end up throwing in my whole bowl of jalapenos. Definitely do like 1 jalapeno if you don't like spicy. So I'm just going to let the chicken finish cooking and let the jalapenos cook down a little. So once the jalapenos were slightly softened and the chicken was done, I went ahead and started with the creamy base of the chicken. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water, maybe about half a cup. I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon powder, mix that all up together. So next for the creaminess, I'm going to add in a couple spoonfuls of cream cheese. So I'm just going to let that melt down and mix everything together. At this point, you can definitely start taste testing and adding whatever else you think is needed. I ended up adding 1 more spoonful of cream cheese. This tasted so good. This sauce was like a spicy, creamy sauce, and I could seriously just like lick it up. So I just let the sauce slightly reduce and thicken, and this is ready to serve. This is how everything looked when it was done. I just served the chicken over a nice bed of rice. This was so good, and I will definitely make this again. The last dinner I'm going to be showing you, I just made some meatballs with mashed potatoes and broccoli, just a nice home comfort meal. So first I'm going to start off with my potatoes. I'm just taking my gold potatoes and dicing them up into small pieces, that way I can boil them. So once I had my pot full of potatoes, I just washed them and started boiling them. Next, I'm just working on my meatballs. I'm just using the Costco frozen meatballs. I actually really love these. So once those were in the oven, I just worked on my broccoli again. So I'm just going to place some broccoli on a baking sheet. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to season my broccoli with some salt, garlic powder, and some Cajun seasoning. So I'm just going to toss everything together and then this went in the oven with the meatballs. So next I'm just going to finish up my potatoes. So I just drained them, and next I'm going to take my masher and just mash up all of these potatoes as best as I can. So next for my mashed potato mixings, I'm just going to add in some water, a couple tablespoons of butter, and then a couple spoonfuls of sour cream. I'm just going to use the same masher to mash and stir at the same time. So next I'm going to add in some seasonings. I'm going to add in my salt, pepper, garlic powder, and some dried parsley flakes. So once everything was really nice and mashed and tasted really well, then I just went in with my little stir and kind of pushed everything together. This is how everything looked when it was done. We love a comfort meal around here. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.